Greetings, my lovelies. Hi, it's Emmy. Welcome back to another vintage gadget test. Today I'll be testing this little gem, and this is called the Electric Egg Scrambler. What you're supposed to do is take this egg and pierce it with this needle. This needle then spins around, mixing the yolk and the white together. Then you can cook it in its shell, or you can crack it and use it for omelets or any other recipe that calls for beaten eggs. So I'm not exactly sure what problem this machine is trying to solve. I guess you save yourself from cleaning a bowl when you use a fork to beat your eggs or something. But the spinning needle portion of this machine was enough to sell it to me. I had to look around a little bit for a date. This is from 1977, so this is a 40-year-old contraption. And if you like these kinds of vintage gadget tests, be sure to check out the playlist, which includes the hot dogger, and it electrocutes hot dogs. That one too was from 1977. Definitely worth checking out. All right, so let's see if the electric egg scrambler really works. All right, so here are our components, very appropriate in color, this kind of sunny 70s yellow. This is made by Vision 2000. A menacing kind of needle at a bend, and this is the egg holder, a plug, and some instructions. Let's get some of those bugs out of there. This is a little dusty. There's a little bit of dust in there, but whatever. Now we're gonna put this needle through here, give it a little twist, and that's all the assembly that is required. The build quality looks pretty flimsy. Now that I look at this, this is missing its dust cover, but I don't think that will affect its performance. So let's go ahead and plug in the AC adapter. It's a little bit humid, so my eggs are a little sweaty. And what we're gonna do is just pierce the egg on here and push down. There's a little trigger here. When you push that down, it's supposed to spin that needle around. So let's see. All right, get my sweaty egg. Right on the needle. Oh. I don't want to push too hard. It's not impaling. Okay, I got it. I've broken the egg. Okay, so now I've broken through the eggshell. That was a little nerve-wracking. And now I'm going to blend it, I think. 3, 4, 5. That is crazy. It's like a pencil sharpener or something. Okay, so it works, I think. That was 5 seconds. Now you take the egg off, and I don't know if you can see it, but there's a tiny little hole. No egg is leaking out. It does give instructions how to cook it, but I'm going to crack this to see how well it blended it first. Oh, look at that. And it worked. 5 seconds with the spinning needle yields a very well blended egg. No separated albumin, no chunks, very, very smooth. All right, so it works. I did drip egg everywhere, but that's pretty typical. So this does give instructions on how to cook the egg within the shell. So let's go ahead and do another one. Another egg, more piercing. I have to say this is the most nerve-wracking part right here, because somehow it feels like you're going to crack the whole egg, but you just kind of get brave and do it. All right, here we go, 5 seconds. Okay, so I have to say that is very satisfying. Now we'll take the egg and we're supposed to wrap in foil and add 1 teaspoon of water and vent it a little bit. Now we're going to place this in a 500-degree Fahrenheit oven and bake it for 17 minutes, which is about the same time you would do for a very hard cooked egg. All right, let's see how it goes. See you in 17 minutes. So while we're waiting for our egg to cook, let's do a little experiment. We have just a normal egg here, nice and sweaty, and I wonder if I could just shake it into submission rather than, impaling and beating it. I'm gonna shake it a lot. I heard it moving a little bit, but somehow I don't think I'm gonna get to quite the amount of complete blendedness as the electric power allows, but let's see. I do feel it mixing. Can you see my arm flap shaking? Isn't it sexy? See my arm flap shaking? Isn't it hot? Ooh. Maybe 30 seconds worth of shaking. 6 times more than the 5-second machine. So let's see how I did. Nope. That did not work at all. I definitely see some bubbles in the egg white, but the yolk is completely intact. Mother Nature is amazing. Look at that. I was shaking that as hard as I could, and I didn't even manage to break the yolk. So, answered my question. You cannot, or I cannot, shake this into beaten submission simply by using my own brute strength. So, I have about 10 seconds left on my timer. Hark. All right, here's my egg. I smell eggness. Ooh, look at this. Burr, burr, burr. Look what happened to my egg. That was disappointing. It exploded. So this is where the hole that was made by the egg scrambler was. And this just burst open. There's still some water in there. So it wasn't because I let it go dry. At any rate, since we have the egg here, let's give it a taste. So the instructions say to take the egg out of the shell, you just cut it in half and scoop it out with a spoon. So since this is already broken, I'll still cut it in half and see. All right, just like the first egg I did, the egg is completely homogeneous. Looks a lot like scrambled eggs. Ooh, it's pretty firm. Itadakimasu. I don't really care for that. I think if I were to cook this again, I would definitely reduce the amount of time that this baked. These have become very rubbery, kind of remind me of cafeteria style scrambled eggs that have been sitting in a warming tray for far too long. Not necessarily dry, just very, very firm and rubbery. But in terms of flavor, very similar to scrambled eggs. Of course, this isn't seasoned at all. There's no way to put salt and pepper inside the egg. You have to put your seasonings on top afterwards. Yeah, I think I would just probably skip this method of cooking because it does take 17 minutes. For the amount of time it takes to cook the egg, you might as well hard boil an egg if you want an egg in its shell. I do like how homogeneous it did beat up the eggs, but to me this is a bit superfluous in terms of an item. I can do the same thing with a bowl and a fork. Granted, I do have to wash them after I'm finished, but I don't mind doing that. But having said that, this gadget is very, very fun. It is very satisfying to take an egg in its shell and to poke it onto this very sharp needle and then kind of buzz it around. It is a fun thing to do. Necessary? Not at all, but fun for sure. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Hope you like that little step back into time. And do let me know in the comments if there are any other gadgets, vintage or otherwise, that you'd like to see me test out. I hope you guys enjoy that. I hope you guys learned something. Follow me on social media, share this video with your friends, and I shall see you in my next video. Toodaloo, take care, bye!